All right, welcome into the Butt and Breneman Show, or the Breneman Butt Show. It's the Breneman and Butt Show. I just got to accept it. All right, let me try that. Welcome into the Breneman and Butt Show. It is that time of year, baby. Another week of the playoff rankings come out last night, but there will be change, Adam. There will be change after this weekend. No time. We got to get right into it. Indiana traveling to Columbus to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes. How are you feeling about this matchup? I just want to kind of give you the floor. If you want to tell me some of the things you're generally looking for, what you expect to see, key players, anything, I'm listening.
Who would have thought this was going to be one of the games of the year in college football? Top
Curt
five
Cignetti
matchup.
might have been the only one, man.
Only one, man.
Holy
He
cow.
believed it, and believing in it makes it happen. I mean, there's so many storylines in this game and matchups. To me, Jake, the biggest storyline that I'll be watching is Ohio State's pass defense again against Indiana's pass offense. You think about Ohio State's defense and their pass defense, they've been great all season long, sixth best in the country, averaging 160 yards allowed through the air per game. But what happened when they visited Oregon? When they played a really good passing offense and a top quarterback? Dylan Gabriel shredded that Ohio State defense for 341 passing yards. Also ran the ball well against them. And this is Indiana is by far the best passing offense Ohio State has faced since that Oregon game. And if Indiana had a different logo, they'd be talked about as one of the best passing offenses in the nation, maybe the best. So you think about the comparison between Oregon and Indiana as well. And Indiana has two legit guys, just like Oregon does at wide receiver. Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr. They can throw the football all over the field. And Curtis Rourke, when he's dialed in and when that offensive line gives him time, they can pick apart a defense. That's the matchup. Can Ohio State's defense hold up against this Indiana passing offense? And how do they play against a quarterback who's really strong like Curtis Rourke? The other part of it is really just Ohio State's run offense. I mean, kind of strength on the other side.
Wait. Hold that thought. I want to get into that in a second, but I want to back you up here because I completely agree. And this is, okay, let's talk about Ohio State's defensive backs. Igbinosun, aggressive. You know, he's that guy on your basketball team that he's a tone setter, but he fouls out a lot. You know, Igbinosun, it's a double-edged sword where he's so aggressive, but far too many penalties in big moments. Can't have that. The other piece is Curtis Rourke in Indiana. It's almost crazy to talk about the back shoulder as a theme of a game because most teams it's not. That is a big part of Indiana's offense. No one throws it more frequently or more successfully, the back shoulder that is, than Indiana. It's unbelievable. Denzel Burke, though, to your point, and Denzel Burke, I had him in my top players of the year. I love him as a player. I look at him on tape and I say, that's $100 million NFL corner. So talented. Starting in the Oregon game, Bren, from the first whistle of the Oregon game to current time, Denzel Burke has been targeted 19 times. He's allowed 17 catches. He's allowed 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 2 PBUs. That's not good enough. That is simply not good enough. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because Denzel Burke is capable of more. That's why it's not good enough, because he's a all-American type talent. That I completely agree with you that matchup is going to decide this game. And I think the other piece is the trenches of Indiana. Can they hold up against Ohio State's defensive line? But I'm sorry to cut you off because you were going to talk about the Buckeye run game there.
No, I think you're spot on with the Ohio State defensive backs and how well they have to play. They'll be tested. And I see this, man, I really think Indiana, if Indiana wins this game, I think it's because it's a shootout. I think Indiana is able to score a bunch of points, and it's a high-scoring game. If I'm Ohio State and Chip Kelly, the run game is key. I mean, you want to keep the ball out of Indiana's offense's hands as long as you can, really chew up the time of possession. Ohio State wants to go on these 10, 12-play drives where they're running the ball well. Quinshon Judkins has been running well. And can Indiana's run defense, which has been pretty good, hold up against Ohio State? The one thing, man, is that I really think that's the matchup both sides will think about. So Indiana, is gonna try to stop that run, and that's when you're gonna have those elite receivers running one-on-one, Emeka Egbuka. You're going to have these guys who have some one-on-one coverage, and the Indiana defensive backs are going to have to hold up. But I really think that if you're Indiana, you want to be in a game where you got to score points. You don't want Ohio State holding the ball for 9 minutes at a time and running the ball well and kind of letting them dictate their tempo and their tone in the game.
Yeah.
You'd almost rather them score fast, right, and get the ball right back and be able to go score. Like, you don't want them Ohio State to completely control the tempo and the pace of this game with their run game. Indiana has to find a way to stop the run, or else I think it could be a long day.
Yeah, we're seeing this game very similar, and it's important to mention there's breaking news that came out last night, I believe confirmed this morning. Very unfortunate news. Ohio State center Seth McLaughlin, transferred in from Alabama, have been playing. Honestly, I made the point last week, and then I thought he was the most impactful
Yeah.
transfer addition that we hadn't been talking about. Remember, they already lost their left tackle, Josh Simmons. They had to move Donovan Jackson out to left tackle and bring in Carson Hinsman to left guard. Now their center is out for the season, so they're going to have
Yeah.
to do some more shuffling. And that's a great point because statistically, Indiana's defensive line, they're one of the best at creating
Really good.
sacks and
Yeah.
TFLs. That's a disrupted. They may not have the name power of other places,
Yeah.
but guys like Kamara or CJ West, Aiden Fisher, that's a disruptive front, and they play to a high standard. You know, if you're Indiana, you want to win those early downs, force Ohio State into third and long where you can hopefully get pressure. And if you're Ohio State, if you can run the ball, you dictate the terms of this game. If you can run the ball, you get the chance to kind of flex your muscles and say, we're Ohio State. There's levels to this. So
Yeah.
that's the piece that's
I,
really interesting.
It's funny. The one name I don't think we mentioned yet is Will Howard. And how does Will Howard play in this game? You think about how the game ended against Oregon, their last kind of big critical game that Ohio State played in, and Will Howard caught a lot of flack for that. I think Will Howard's
He
played really
played
well this
great
season.
though.
He,
He
he played
played
really
great
well.
in that
He played
game.
really well. But Jake, that's the play people remember. And then
Yeah.
you think about the rest of the season. I mean, Will Howard didn't play that well against Penn State. Threw a pick six first drive of the game. So there have been some of these moments where he hasn't played
Aside
great.
from that, he played
But
well. He fumbled out of the end zone for sure. I thought he played well.
played well, but how well can you play when you throw a pick six your first
Right.
possession and go down 10-0 and then you fumble out the end zone? I mean, like there's only so much that you can do
No, I know. Yeah.
to make up for that. And I listen, I like Will Howard. I think he's been great all season long. My point is, this is his chance now on a national stage. Everyone will be watching this game. It'll be one of the most viewed games of the year to play really well, and he's going to have to. I think this Indiana offense or defense is going to focus on stopping the run. Their D line has been really good. They've been good at getting pressure, and they've been good at TFLs, as you said. Will Howard's going to have to make plays with his arm in this game, and how does he? He's going to have to break a run for a big one. Listen, I mean, if a quarterback can run for a couple first downs, your chances of winning go up a ton. I think Will Howard's going to be a key factor in this game. He's going to have to play well with how well Indiana's offense is playing. He's going to need to score some points.
People are calling me crazy. I think Will Howard has an opportunity. I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman, but he has a chance to make it to New York. If Will Howard
These
plays
last two games. Yeah.
Yes, and then if it goes according to plan, and Curtis Rourke, the same could be said for Curtis Rourke if he leads his team to victory, and then
Yeah.
But if Will Howard plays well statistically against Indiana, of course all eyes will always be on the Michigan game, and then the rematch against Oregon. If he plays well and leads his team to victory and puts up big stats, he'll go to New York. I'm just telling you right now. The same is true for Curtis Rourke, though. He has a chance to go to New York. How about the coaches here? The mental side of this game, maybe as we kind of put a quick bow on this, what do you think your message would be if you're Cignetti versus Ryan Day?
It's a great question, man.
I'm putting you on the spot. I could answer.
I think we know what Cignetti's message probably will be. It's that we were born for this. This is what we do. Look what we did all season long. This moment's not too big. Go play Indiana football like we've been playing all year. I think the one thing that coaches always have to acknowledge in these times is, in a game like this, does Cignetti acknowledge that this game's a little bit bigger than everything else? Or does he try to downplay it of like, want to know every week, this is how we're going to play. This is what we do. We're just playing another nameless opponent. I think if you're Cignetti, I think I would acknowledge it and say, listen, this is the best team we're going to play. You better bring your A game, and you better find a way to get it done when it matters. This is by far the biggest matchup Indiana will have. And the perception of Indiana's season will change drastically if they lose big in this game. It will be drastic, Jake. And what we're going to end up having is one of the most heated playoff discussions that we've seen in the playoff era, especially in year one of the 12-team playoff. If Indiana loses this game and their best win on their schedule is against Michigan, and there's 2-loss SEC teams, an SEC team that lost the conference championship game that has 3 losses and is on the bubble, there's going to be a lot of talk about that and who's more deserving to be in the playoff. So the best way to shut it all up is to beat Ohio State if you're Indiana. Yeah. And I think Cignetti, too, loves the underdog story. I hope he pulls some clips from this podcast of me assuming that Indiana is going to lose this game to Ohio State. And I think he loves that. For Ryan Day, I mean, every game is a must-win game for Ryan Day, right? I mean, he has to win this game, and the tone around Ryan Day and this season will change as well if they lose to Indiana. It feels like a game that Ryan Day has to find a way to win.
Yeah, I like what you said. I think Cignetti does acknowledge the gravity of the moment. This one is different. You can't sell me that it isn't. And I think Cignetti says this one is different, and you guys are ready for it. Yeah. So to our viewers, like,
so are we?
Yes, exactly. And to our viewers, what coaches do is, Indiana's traveling to Columbus. They'll stay in a hotel tonight and they'll have their meetings. It's a noon kickoff. So their meetings in Columbus tonight, there's going to be a highlight tape. And these things are like mini movies. Like teams, I think each team literally spends 6-figure salaries to have a hype person and a video person. Yeah. They're going to have a badass hype up video to further instill that belief into the Hoosiers that you are built for this and you can get it done. And Ohio State, I think for Ryan Day, the message has been, I've called 2 of their games this year. So I've done deep dives on their team, and Sonny Styles said it perfectly. Sonny Styles, their linebacker, said, listen, we know what it's like to win every game and then come up short at the end of the season. I think pain is what it brings you closer together. When you talk about, culture and unity, sometimes the pain and the hardship from the outside brings you closer together. This roster has experienced pain and falling short. And it's a moment in time, really, for them to, you look at the guys like Travion Henderson, Emeka Egbuka, Donovan Jackson, JT Tuimoloau, Denzel Burke, Jack Sawyer. I can go down the list. Everyone I just mentioned should be in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
And they are not, because they came back to Ohio State because they felt they had unfinished business. This is that unfinished business.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to be a fun game. So
let's go score prediction, Jake. I'll start. I have Ohio State winning, I think by like 12 to 14 points. I'm going to go Ohio State 35, Indiana 21.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, I'll go Ohio State 31, Indiana 27.
Ooh, close one.
It's a close one. And I believe it's Curtis Rourke is a gamer, man. I'm just telling you. And that's a dangerous offense that's going to attack the Buckeye secondary. I have concerns about the offensive line too. That is highly concerning with the Hoosiers D line. So it's a close one, but be a fun one.
It'll be fun. Let's go.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next week on the Butt and Breneman Show.